Welcome back. Well, following the presentation of the Rivers State 2025 Appropriation Bill before the Victor Okojumbo-led Rivers State House of Assembly by Governor Siminalayi Fubara and its eventual passage into law, the main opposition party in the state, the All Progressives Congress APC, has described the action as illegal. The Rivers State chairman of the All Progressives Congress APC, Tony Okocha, noted that the presentation of the 2025 appropriation bill to the Victor Okojumbo-led House of Assembly was illegal and in violation of court rulings as well as established governance protocols. Okocha, who spoke to journalists in Port Harcourt, said the governor's actions demonstrated a blatant disregard for the rule of law and judicial pronouncements.
It is unfortunate, it is unimaginable, it is unthinkable that a governor had risen through the ranks. If for nothing else, he was a civil servant, full-blown civil servant in the Ministry of Finance. It means, of course, that over the years, he's not a toddler in the business of budget and how it is presented. 27 of the assembly members are on this side. 3 members of assembly are on this side. And between you and I, is it not an anathema that a budget of a state as prominent and as all important as Rivers State will be presented to an illegal setting? Court of Appeal in their various judgments from the days of Omotosha, way back in January 2024, it is clear in the judgment of Omotosha that a budget has to be presented to a legislative arm under the leadership of Martins, Right Honorable Martins Chike Amegu. I did all I could today as we speak on this matter. Each time I see the assembly members and see them still fronting their PDP membership, I just tell myself that for once you have lost something. I'm a goal-getter, but in that case, I lost it. I challenge any person from any ward, from any LGA, because I had to set my searchlight, and I was willing, I was wishing that any one of them would go and register with the party. None registered.
The budget worth 1.188 trillion naira is quite a sizable one, but the last thing the governor wishes for is trouble the size of the budget itself. As we've told you, Fubara sent it to the budget within 2 working days after presenting it to the 3-member assembly loyal to him. This scenario is like a playback of what happened last year, where Governor Fubara presented the 800 billion naira 2024 budget before a full-member assembly and assented it within 24 hours.
I want to say this, maybe for some persons somewhere who are still mixing up issues. We have only one assembly, and that assembly is headed by Right the Honorable Victor Okojumbo. A group of friends, they embarked on what they call Simba journey. Halfway the vessel, while they were coasting, they now realized that they were entering inside the den of devil and sharks. They now retrieved. It is too late. It is too late. And the truth about it, we're not going back. We've given them enough room. As it stands now, our major target is the interest of Rivers State and to continue to defend the integrity of governance. So as long as I'm concerned, we have moved on.
Excellency 2025 promises to be a year of strategic planning and partnership. Your Excellency, we have no doubt that you will carry out the task of developing and delivering the dividends of democracy to every nook and cranny in Rivers State.
4 and 5 deals with the capital expenditure, totaling 678 billion 88,433,962 naira 3 kobo. Again, the capital expenditure signifies Your Excellency's commitment to ensure infrastructure development cut across all sectors and local government.
Well, I am now being joined by a former Commissioner for Information in Rivers State, Dr. Austin Tam George, who joins me from Lagos. Welcome and thank you for being here on News Now.
Thank you. Happy New Year, and thanks for having me.
Great. Well, with all the political crisis that has emanated from Rivers State, this seems like the latest episode. It seems like we've not seen it all. Why should a budget passed by a three-man assembly be a legitimate document? Why should that be?
Well, it should be because the former members of the assembly who defected from their party, legally lost any legitimacy to remain in the assembly. As you know, the law is very clear that if you left your party, without any contention within the party, then you lose your seat. The law is very clear, and I think there have been judgments, regarding that. So, this matter is already considered by the Rivers people as a settled matter. Now, the reality is that there are members of the assembly who now constitute the legal, legislative arm of the Rivers State government. So those are the people that the governor can only legally deal with, as constituting the state legislature. In fact, there are judgments that forbid the governor from dealing with the former members of the assembly. So the governor.
Okay, I don't know if you're still there, but if you can hear me. All right, we seem to have a little network connectivity issue there, but let's see if we still have you join us, Dr. Austin Tam George. I'd like to ask very quickly what this means, especially for the Rivers people. Looking at the fact that this has been ongoing ever since the governor took his seat as the governor of Rivers State. It seems like there's no settling down anytime soon. Your thoughts on this as well? Well, hopefully we can reconnect with our guest who joined us. That's Dr. Austin Tam George, to speak on this, a former Commissioner for Information. All right, you're back. Yes, I just asked, what does this mean for the people of Rivers State? Looking at the fact that the governor, since he took office, hasn't even started work yet. He seems to be jostling and battling with a lot of both internal and external differences.
I mean, in politics, this kind of things happen. But what is clear is that he's dealing with the legally constituted legislative arm of government. So he's dealing with the government, with the legislative arm headed by the Right Honorable Local Jumbo. So I believe that the governor has no handicaps at all. He's dealing with the proper legislative arm. And the business of administration of the state has got to continue.
All right. I mean, you have been in government yourself, and I'm sure you understand its inner workings. Now, having been a commissioner yourself in Rivers State, what other priorities do you suppose the budget should have addressed that it didn't?
No, I've looked at the budget very closely myself, and I think it strikes, the right course. There is a very strong emphasis on rejuvenating the education sector, which is a very important area of human capital development. I was in the previous administration, and for 8 years, teachers were not paid. We had the highest number of children out of school in the South-South region, and not a single teacher was recruited in 8 years. Now, the Governor Fubara has made it a top priority to rejuvenate the sector. He has given budgetary priority to the sector. And what we are going to see is a massive rejuvenation of the education sector. That's number one. Number two, for 8 years under the years of Wiki administration, the healthcare sector was completely abandoned. I'm saying this because I was part of the government myself. I eventually resigned the protest against the cynical neglect of critical sectors. Right now, Governor Fubara is placing very strong emphasis in delivering the health services to rural areas. So there is going to be, according to this budget, greater health sector rejuvenation and far reaching health penetration across all the 23 local governments. So, and there is also a very strong emphasis this time around on poverty alleviation. So I think that the budget as presented by Governor Fubara will address the very important critical sectors that will move Rivers State to the level of development that the governor has set as an agenda for his administration.
All right. I mean, still talking this matter. Let's also look at the back and forth conversations from the governor and the FCT minister. It seems like it's continuing all over again. The governor had earlier on possibly threw jabs at the FCT minister, and there was also a response from the FCT minister. Do you think that it's about time that this should be called off while the people of Rivers State can actually start enjoying and benefiting from the dividends of democracy?
The governor has not taken any aggressive measures against the FCT minister. Ironically, it is the FCT minister who is aggressing the administration, who has made many public statements that he was determined to destabilize the state. All the governor is doing is to protect the interest of the state. There has been no action that is aggressive on the part of the government against the FCT minister. Now, for the benefit of those who are listening, let me make it very clear what is at stake here. Because sometimes the media appears to mischaracterize what is happening in Rivers State as a personal problem between the minister of the FCT and the governor of Rivers State, Governor Fubara. They have no personal differences. The major difference that is at stake is that the FCT minister wants to appropriate the resources of the state for himself. And the governor is saying, no, resources meant for Rivers State will only be used for the benefit of all the people of Rivers State. So what is happening is a very, very clear ideological struggle between, the forces of privatization of the state and state capture, represented by the FCT minister, and the governor who has vowed to make sure that the sovereign will of the people prevails. So it's as simple as that. I don't see how reconciliation is possible in this matter because the people have a sovereign right to control their resources to develop the state for the benefit of everyone. So I think that, I served in the previous administration headed by the current minister of the FCT. And so my strong advice will always be for the FCT minister to focus on his administration in Abuja and allow the governor of Rivers State to implement the developmental agenda he has set for himself so that Rivers State can move forward. This back and forth between the minister and the governor has nothing to do with personal differences other than the governor insisting that there has to be an end to the privatization of state resources. There has to be an end to the capture of Rivers State resources for the benefit of the FCT minister, and that all resources meant for Rivers State will henceforth be used for the development of the state and for the benefit of all. It's as simple as that. Is the governor's agenda, and he has the full support of all Rivers people.
Well, I want to say thank you so much for speaking to us, Dr. Austin Tam George, former Commissioner for Information in Rivers State. Thank you for your time. And hopefully we'll get to continue this conversation as we go on. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Well, still talking politics, the candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 general elections, Peter Obi, has called for far-reaching measures to address the myriad of challenges affecting the country. Obi, during a press conference in the nation's capital, Abuja, called on government to effect an urgent reduction in the cost of governance, saying this will free up funds for investment into critical sectors of the economy. He says that there is a need to tackle poverty and inequality, which is destroying the fabric of the country. Well, earlier we were joined by public affairs analyst Jide Ojo, who shed some light on Peter Obi's interview and, of course, the press release.
The president said he's not intending to reduce the cost to cut down on his cabinet, and that a country of over 220 million should not have just very few hands driving the administration. However, I believe that I don't agree with him on that count. I've written several published commentary in my column in The Punch, antagonizing that position. America, with over 350 million population, has just 15 secretaries, which is equivalent of ministers. And so to have 50 ministers does not sink well with me. And what the presidential candidate of Labour Party in the last election said are all they are true. They are true as you know it to be. However, what I feel he needs to do so that he's not perceived as a sore loser is also to see some of the things that the administration may.
Well, coming up next here on News Now, 133 women, girls, and killed in gender-related violence in 2024 report. We have details of this report and more stories. Stay with us. Welcome back. No fewer than 133 Nigerian women, including teenagers, were victims of suspected gender-related violence between January 1, 2024 and December 31st, 2024. The details were contained in the 2024 DOHS Cares Foundation's femicide reports. The alarming number of incidents were based on verified reports of gender-related violence published by various media outlets in Nigeria during the period under review. The reports indicate that approximately 12 women were killed between January and March 2024. Among the victims was a 3-year-old girl named Asiya, who was initially reported missing but was later found dead in Bauchi State with some of her body parts allegedly removed. According to the data, at least 9 women lost their lives to gender-related violence in April. I'm being joined from Abuja by Gladys Emmanuel, an attorney at law with substantial experience in advocacy for women. It's good to have you join me here, Gladys.
Good morning. It's so good to join you this morning to discuss this very topical issue and very serious issue, which is femicide in Nigeria. Great.
Let's begin with something as basic as asking whether this figure is a true reflection of the state of things, given your own involvement in this space. Could it potentially be higher?
Definitely. These figures have the chances of being higher because we have cases of not only femicide, but various forms of gender-based violence that continue to go unreported in the country based on lots of issues, such as the absence of proper awareness, fear of stigmatization, fear of being judged, culture of silence, which is very prevalent in this part of the world, and of course, lack of access to relevant support services to be able to properly address issues of gender-based violence. So definitely 133 might be less than what we really have for the year 2024.
All right, when we look at the month-by-month breakdown, it says that 23 women in May and June, and then it also goes ahead to say some 16 in July and so on. Now, one is actually attempted to ask, is this the symptom of a misogynistic society, or how worried should we really be?
So when we're talking about issues of femicide in Nigeria, I think for the year 2024, we had it the highest. And this reason is because, like I mentioned earlier, the lack of awareness. So I'll take myself as an example. During the last concluded 16 days of activism, which is usually spans from 25th of November into 10th of December every year, one thing that we noticed is, even as we engaged with people at the grassroots, we noticed the absence of proper awareness of issues of gender-based violence at all. People do not really understand the severity of this issue. We have communities still trying to adopt the traditional methods of addressing issues of whether it's femicide or gender-based violence as a whole. So when we talk about these issues of femicide, the figures can be higher, just like I mentioned earlier. And the reason, one, we have patriarchy, where we see male dominance. where we see issues such as toxic masculinity, where we see issues such as women being subjugated. We also have issues around economic dependence. Now, most women or girls depend heavily on male figures. Now, these male figures could range from either their fathers or even intimate partners. And as such, when they are faced with threats or even femicide, we see that very little is done. We just hear about it on the news, and that is all about it. We really have very little cases that end up going to court, and then perpetrators are made to face the full arm of the law. We also have families who have not really understood the severity of this issue, and as such, they try to downplay how serious issues of femicide is in our country. Femicide stems from also cultural norms. Now, when we have harmful cultural norms, when we have the fact that there's no allyship, no male allyship to be able to tackle these issues, then we continue to see a rise in issues of femicide in this country. And then we have weak implementation of laws as such, and the absence of proper support services. Now, although in the case of femicide, now there are lots of factors that come into play. We see things such as some people tell you the reason they did that is because of male dominance. Others will tell you the reason that we continue to have femicide on the rise is because of some traditional purposes or rituals or orthodox purposes, as the case may be.
Well, it bothers me to note this, but then again, what sort of conversations ought we to have that we aren't having? And what aren't we telling ourselves in terms of change drivers? What must we begin to do that's different as government, families, and even individuals?
So first, we need to understand that addressing femicide is a collective responsibility. It is not the responsibility of the government alone or civil society organizations or even families alone. It is a collective responsibility because this is one monster that is eating deep into the fabric of our society. So the first thing, after recognizing we need concerted effort, the next thing we need to do is awareness creation. We cannot overemphasize the importance of awareness creation. Just over the last concluded 16 days of activism, I was in a community, and out of 50 persons who were involved in that community dialogue and engagement, we asked basic questions about women's rights, basic questions around issues of gender-based violence, and it will surprise you to note that we had less than 10 persons who really had like very minute understanding of this issue. So you see, in the absence of knowledge, abuse sometimes is inevitable. So we need to push for more awareness, more enlightenment, especially at grassroots communities. Secondly, we need to embark on more trainings of our law enforcement agents, more trainings for our judicial officers. We need to note that at this point in Nigeria, we've gotten to the stage where we need to call a state of emergency on issues of femicide or gender-based violence as a whole. Then there is a need for even digital literacy now for girls and women, because most of these persons are lured from the internet. Most of these women and girls are lured from the internet. They don't understand the red flags. They don't know when to stop a conversation. They don't know. Sometimes the perpetrators of femicide are actually strangers. Other times they're persons known to this particular individuals.
All
then
right.
we also need to address the use of technology. At the moment, it's so sad that we don't have a holistic hub that is able to address issues of gender-based violence or femicide. We don't have a national mobile application that women and girls are able to click a button and get the necessary help that they need, even when they feel threatened or they feel in danger. So we need to avert our minds towards that.
Okay.
Additionally, we fund the necessary bodies or stakeholders. So
Okay.
we need to fund whether it's police, proper budgetary allocation every year by the government should be done for either the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs or criminal justice system, and then effort with civil society and the government.
I'm sure there's a lot to actually touch on, especially on this issue. But I want to say thank you so much, Gladys Emmanuel, for joining us and helping us break this down. And hopefully, like you've highlighted, some of these things will be put in place for the betterment, especially of avoiding femicide in the country. Thanks for your time. Well, coming up next, we'll take a look at the resettlement of displaced communities in Borno State, Nigeria, as, of course, the police force pledges interagency collaboration. Stay with us. We'll be right back with this story and more. Thanks for staying with us here on News Now. The Nigeria Police Force has pledged to increase its operational presence and enhance interagency collaboration as part of its commitment to supporting the resettlement of displaced communities in Borno State. The State Commissioner of Police, Mohammed Yusufu, made this known during a briefing on its annual crime data report for 2024, where the police recorded a total of 721 crime cases with plans for the year 2025. News Central's Umaru Kirawa completes the report.
It's another successful day for officers and men of the Borno State Police Command. The Police Commissioner, Mohammed Yusufu, is out to brief the press on the command's successes in the year 2024.
The command has reported incidences of felonious crime, misdemeanor, and other simple offenses, totaling 367. Of this total number, 721 suspects were arrested, 257 charged to court, while 110 are still under investigation.
The report by the Commissioner indicated a continued focus on criminal activities such as armed robbery, kidnapping, and human trafficking, which have affected both urban and rural communities.
Our projection is in line with the IGP vision to reduce crime to the barest minimum nationwide, at least by 30%. Now, the command intends to sustain robust, proactive policing by ensuring that Maiduguri Metropolis maintain its stature as one of the safest and most secured state capital.
The security situation in Borno has seen improvement, with fewer incidents of insurgent attacks in the latter half of 2024. The Nigerian Police Force stressed that more work needs to be done to maintain security, especially in areas receiving displaced persons.
The Nigerian Police Force is the lead agency when it comes to internal security. So our projection for 2025 is how do we key in to this grand Borno restoration. To key into that one, we have to align with the transitional justice system by enhancing police presence in such communities where displaced persons have returned and ensure that there is community participation in terms of our policing priority, as well as protection and promotion of human rights.
The police has urged the public to assist in the provision of timely information for response to aid in its crime-fighting efforts, particularly as many communities transition from displacement back to normalcy. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
Nigeria's poverty rate is estimated to have reached 46% in 2023, according to a World Bank report that estimated over 100 million Nigerians living below the poverty line. However, Nigerians continue to feel the negative impact of the economy by the policies of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, particularly the devaluation of the naira and the removal of fuel subsidies. In continuation of our 2024 sectoral review, our correspondent Adebola Deduba takes a look at the government's efforts in alleviating the suffering of the people. Take a look.
One of the campaign promises of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu upon assuming office was to immediately start a social welfare scheme with direct monthly cash payments to about 25 million vulnerable Nigerians as a way of tackling poverty. However, a 2024 World Bank report says Nigeria's poverty rate increased from 40% in 2018 to 46% in 2023. The increase has been linked to removal of fuel subsidy in May 2023 and the valuation of the Naira in June 2023 by the current government. Against this backdrop, the poverty rate is projected to get worse for 2024, with a likelihood of hitting 47%, translating to over 104 million Nigerians living below the poverty line. In a bid to mitigate this and cushion the cost of living crisis in Nigeria, President Bola Tinubu continued the cash transfer program, distribution of grains and other palliatives to all states of the Federation, and the country's minimum wage was also increased. Despite these, some Nigerians believe the efforts have had little or no impact on their disposable income.
Kó tó di pé epo wọn tí gbogbo ẹ̀ wọ́n ẹ̀ẹ̀mẹ́ta ni mò ń jẹun lójúmọ́ ṣùgbọ́n nígbà tí epo díẹ̀ tí wọ́n ń sìn ẹ̀ẹ̀kan ṣo ni ó ṣe fẹ́ jẹun àárọ̀ ń sìn ni mo lè ṣiṣẹ́ kán bá gbé oúnjẹ wá àdúgbò wọ́n ń fún mi o wọ́n bá gbé gàrí wá fún mi wọ́n bá gbé rẹ́ẹ̀sì wá fún mi níwọ̀nba yẹn wọ́n bá máa fún mi wọ́n bá dẹ̀ gbé gàrí wá fún mi níwọ̀nba tó máa fún mi ní àtẹ̀wà ṣùgbọ́n mi ò gbowó o.
Alhamdulillah shankabu daya da supermarket na samu alhamdulillah wannan rabona ne amma naira a cikin wannan naira ban samu ba.
A matakin jiha da matakin abinan federal government din ba abin da aka mana kawai dai an zo an same mu an tambaye mu account number namu da sauransu mun bayar daga baya ba abin da muka ji kuma ba abin da muka gani.
Beyond the toll the harsh economic condition is taking on individual lives, how are families faring?
It's not easy. I'm a single mother of two. So what I buy 150 before, we are buying 600 now. So everything, the way the things increase like times 5 of increment. Just to drink curry, people can use 300 and drink curry. Maybe money no deal, make me drink curry. But now, if we want to drink gari now, like afternoon, money no deal, we spend 1,000.
I don't think the social intervention has really helped us because, again, we do this intervention without a lot of data. A lot of this intervention are just done haphazardly. You talk about the cash transfer, and we don't even know who are the people that are receiving this cash up to this moment. Again, there's a political side to it. You must belong to a particular political party to enjoy from these interventions from government. To drive and to see positivity in this intervention, it has to be data-driven, just like what happened with World Bank and others. So unless we get that right, we'll continue to have challenges. We'll not be able to see the effect of some of these projects.
All tiers of government must provide incentives to enable private investors to embark on large-scale farming. Also, the president must quickly introduce the forest rangers that he promised to provide for security in the farming communities. This dire situation needs both short-term and long-term solutions to the food crisis in Nigeria.
It appears government may need to audit its poverty intervention program as the cost of living in recent times has soared beyond the purchasing power of the average Nigerian, barely struggling to keep afloat. In Lagos for News Central, Adebola Adeduba.
Away from that well-detailed report, a Zambian police officer reportedly under the influence of alcohol has released 13 detainees to celebrate the new year, sparking a manhunt for the escaped suspects. Inspector Titus Phiri allegedly took cell keys from Constable Sarah Banda at Leonard Cheelo police station in Lusaka on New Year's Eve, freeing individuals held for crimes including assault, robbery and burglary. Police spokesperson Ray Hamonga described the incident, stating Inspector Phiri acted under intoxication when he forcibly seized cell keys and unlocked both the male and female cells and instructed the suspects to leave, stating they were free to cross over into the new year. Well, you could say that's the real crossover there. Well, a court in Burkina Faso has sentenced 2 individuals to life imprisonment for the involvement in a 2017 attack on a Turkish restaurant in Ouagadougou that claimed 19 lives. The attack occurred in August 2017 when 2 gunmen opened fire at the Aziz Istanbul restaurant on the capital's main avenue. While no group claimed responsibility, the assault followed a pattern of attacks targeting areas frequented by expatriates. The restaurant is located just 200 meters from the site of January 2016 attack on a hotel and cafe that left 30 dead and 71 injured, many of them foreigners. Burkina Faso has faced a series of violent incidents, including a March 2018 assault on army headquarters and the French embassy, which killed 8 soldiers. The trial of Louis Ba, leader of the Liberal Democratic Movement, continues in Conakry Court. Ba is accused of offense and defamation against General Mamadi Doumbouya, the head of Guinea's junta. The charges highlight the country's ongoing struggle with freedom of speech and political opposition. As Guinea navigates its transition to civilian rule, the international community is watching closely. The country has a history of human rights abuses, including the 2009 stadium massacre that killed over 150 people. U.S. authorities say they do not know yet why a suspect blew up a Tesla Cybertruck outside the Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas, an incident that investigators are probing as a potential act of terror. The motivation at this point is unknown, according to FBI Special Agent Spencer Evans, who spoke to reporters, adding that it was not lost on agents that the blast took place in front of a hotel linked to U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, with Tesla owned by prominent Trump backer Elon Musk.
Investigative leads around the world. No information that we're aware of right now that connects this individual to any terrorist organization around the world. But that's obviously the thrust of the investigation, is ruling out that there's any sort of terrorism nexus, and then again getting at what the ideology is. As pointed out, we feel that the subject has been identified, although not conclusively. Waiting for DNA evidence on that front. However, we do feel like we have the subject identified, and at this time there is no information about additional subjects that the FBI is tracking on.
We believe the question is, was the gunshot self-inflicted? And we do believe it was, since he was the only person in the vehicle, and it occurred immediately prior to the vehicle blowing up. His body is burnt beyond recognition, and I do still not have confirmation 100% that that is the individual that was inside of our vehicle. And so, as I'm calling it now, the subject or person of interest, I will not come back until I have the confirmation through DNA or medical records that this is indeed, in fact, the subject inside of the vehicle.
Let's take you to the world of sports. Former Rivers United goalkeeper Victor Sochima has joined South Sudanese club Jamus SC. A 25-year-old completed his medical assessment and has signed a 1-year deal with the possibility of extending for another year. Sochima was included in the Super Eagles roster for the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations qualifier against Guinea-Bissau, coached by Jose Pesero. He started his career at FC Heartland during the 2020-2021 season, moved to Jigawa United the following year, and then played for Rivers United for 2 years. The Nigerian National League, NNL, is back in action for matchday 4 after the festive season hiatus as teams jostle for early points in the 2025 campaign. In Conference A, Dakar FC hosts Inter Lagos, determined to make home advantage count. Newcomers Igbajo United and Ijele FC square off in what promises to be a fairy encounter, while the unbeaten Abia Comets face a stern test against Warri Wolves in the marquee fixture. Elsewhere, Smart City take on Beyond Limits FA, with Edel FC clashing against 1472 FC. Conference B showcases equally enticing matchups, with Sporting Lagos hosting Gateway United in the top building counter. Madiba FC travel to battle Godswill Akpabio FC, and Rivers FC hope to secure their first victory of the season against Kun Khalifa FC. The stakes are high as clubs return to action, eager to set the tone for the new year. A second-half double from Denzel Dumfries and Inter Milan, a 2-0 win over Atalanta in Riyadh on Thursday to reach the Italian Super Cup final, where the Serie A champions will aim to win the trophy for the fourth successive time. The opening half ended scoreless, mostly thanks to Atalanta keeper Marco Canesici, who first denied Lautaro Martinez with a reflex save from close range. After the break, Inter forced a couple of early corner kicks and took the lead through Dumfries, who slot home. He then doubled the lead in the 61st minute to send Inter through. In Monday's final, Inter will meet the winner of Friday's second semi-final between Juventus and AC Milan. Naomi Osaka returned to the spotlight, advancing to her first semi-final since 2022 at the Auckland Classic. The former world #1 overcame a tough challenge from American Hailey Baptiste, battling to a 6-7, 6-1, 6-2 victory. The four-time Grand Slam champion, currently ranked 57th, continues a comeback after a 15-month break during which she gave birth to her daughter Shay. Reflecting on her progress, Osaka expressed satisfaction, noting that her dedication is starting to bear fruit. Despite a shaky start, the 27-year-old regained the rhythm, firing 9 aces to secure the win. With the Australian Open approaching, Osaka's performance signals a promising return to form. She now awaits a semi-final opponent to be decided later today. That's our wrap of the news for this hour. Before we go, another look at some of the major stories. All Progressives Congress in Rivers State has rejected Governor Fubara's budget, describes it as illegal. A Burkina Faso court has sentenced to life imprisonment over the deadly 2017 attack on Turkish restaurant. We also told you that a drunk Zambian policeman has freed 13 suspects, telling them to go ahead and celebrate the new year. Well, the year is still fresh. It's day 2, you could say, or better still, you can count down to another time to celebrate the weekend as it kicks off, the very first weekend for the year. Well, you can watch us live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times 274, and other social media platforms right there on your screen. Well, the ladies will be back here for Jasiri at 10 a.m. For me, Joe Hansen, I'll see you again soon. Good morning.